Hi everybody. So a quick announcement before we keep getting back into the right wing. As you know, I usually have weeks and weeks of videos prepared ahead of time, and we do, right? But I got tired of just, laying voiceover on stuff months ago and be like, hey, happy 4th of July, everyone, when it's, the middle of February. So from now on, all the videos are being recorded the day they're going out, right? So it is 6:30 in the morning. It's February 5th, 2020. So, hi, how's everybody doing? This way I can respond to feedback easier. It's like, hey, can you talk about this? Well, I can. Like a fan will say, hey, can you talk about avionics, this or that, or something? I can, but then you won't hear it for 6 weeks, right? So, this is much easier. Okay, so we're continuing to work on wiring up the right wing. In my hands, what you see me working on is the small splice piece between the main wing wiring harness and the autopilot servo. Right, so there's a 12-pin Molex connector that's going to connect to the roll servo. And as I stated in the last video, we had to do a little bit of correction, right? So there was a couple of spare wires for some old serial type data ports that aren't used anymore, so I took them out, which is good because I needed them for some grounds. One of the things that Garmin's awesome system does is it controls the trim servos, right? So not to be confused with the roll and autopilot servos. We're talking about the trim servos, which are different. But the autopilot Garmin servos actually control the trim. And the way that happens is the electricity goes through, and it's dedicated electricity for the trim servo goes through the autopilot servo into the trim servo, which is great. Problem is that it's PMW, I'm sorry, whichever one it is. And because it's pulse width modularized power, right, for 12 volts, because it's variable voltage, you need to have shielded wire. Well, the wiring bundle didn't come with that. So we're having to retrofit the whole thing with that in place. And that's one of the reasons I need the extra pins in this 12 Molex connector that attaches to the autopilot servo, because the ground from the shield going back to the roll trim needs to be grounded to the shell of the autopilot servo. So yeah, it's a big mess, but it's easy enough to do. So I'm I'm using my awesome label maker. I've got the I'm putting on a nice shrink wrap. I'm doing everything in the proper way, and of course the nice what do you call those tiny little things? Oh, not solder splices. Sorry, there we go. So yeah, so it's a 12-pin Molex connector. Let's just go through the pins real quick. So there's two CAN bus, the CAN bus shield. There's the two wires coming in for the power to the trim motor, and there's the two wires that are going to go back out to the trim motor, right? So that's 7. You also need the autopilot disconnect wire, and then you also need the two wires for the power and the ground just for the autopilot servo, right? So that's 10 wires right there. Plus you need the ground from the shield going to the trim, so that's 11 wires. So 11 out of the 12 of this Molex connector is full. It's a lot. I'll see if I can get some pictures for next week, because I don't have any on me. And it's especially ironic because I ordered so Vans has a trim kit or I should say an autopilot kit for its planes. In the next video, I'll go ahead and describe that. So I will see you guys soon.